So shall we begin?
All good.
That, Mike? Okay. So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this webinar this morning. It's really lovely to have you participate, and all our clients hopefully are with us as well. I'm Amanda. This is my partner, Alison, and we launched SILKS Luxury Lifestyle over 10 years ago now. And yes, oh, hang on, something's just happened here. Bear with us. Remind me tomorrow, whatever that is. Yes, so why? Oh,
hang on, sorry, this is.
Why did that come up there? God.
Sorry, guys, I don't know if you can see us panicking here.
No, don't worry.
You can see us, yeah?
We can, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so we'll carry on, and then when everyone else is talking, we'll try and get our screen up. So,
yes.
Well, we provide a bespoke service for our clients. We source a wide range of private staff, from housekeepers, chefs, PAs, and so on, and also event planning and lifestyle management. And recently, we've been asked by a number of our clients to talk about where it's safe to go, what restrictions are involved, just be for their family, or whether it be taking staff away with them too. So we thought it'd be a great opportunity to reach out to some of our partners here today and with our clients to discuss that and have a bit of a Q&A with you all to hopefully answer their questions, and yeah, maybe we'll have a little something to look forward to. So
should we begin by introducing our panel of experts? So we've got Claire Doyle, she's the marketing expert here at SILKS. Richard Hyde, hopefully, Chief Operating Officer at Small Luxury Hotels of the World. Hello, Michael Bonsor. He's the Managing Director even at the Rosewood Hotel in London. Claudia Watts, Senior Business Development Manager, Air Partner. And Kate Hales, the Founder and Director of Hot Chilli Travel. Over to you, Claire.
Morning, thank you all for joining us. So I was just wondering if we could just all take a couple of minutes just to introduce ourselves and explain who we are to everybody. So Kate, should we start with you?
Good morning, everyone. So yeah, I'm Kate Hales, and as Alison has said, founder and director at Hot Chilli Travel. So we are a small independent travel company, and we pride ourselves on our dedicated, personal and dynamic approach to helping everyone's trip just become 100% tailored to their needs. So we listen to what you want, where you want to go, what your desires are, what your needs are. And in this ever-changing market, and there's no denying that travel has changed so much, and we've all been through so many things in the last few months, that we really need to listen to what people want to do. But also we understand there are so many constraints and there are so many things changing. We need to keep up with this, and we need to be able to provide this to clients, and just to be able to help them hold their hand in that journey, because undeniably people do want to travel, and they all want to travel. It might not be this month, next month, or in February, March, but we want to be able to help them, to give them that positive approach to how to plan that, and also just to keep them in tune with all the changes that might happen if things change while you're away, where you want to go. So really just providing that personal service as well, so that you're not alone. You don't have to worry about all those things that are changing if they do change, and where you want to go. We'll provide all that information for you. So it's really giving you a sort of security blanket more, and being able to provide the positivity to help you make those informed decisions on where you want to go. So it's good to see you all, and thank you so much for joining this morning, and I hope to be able to answer questions as we go along the way.
Thank you, Kate.
Michael?
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
So I opened Rosewood London. So I've been with the hotel about 8.5 years. And prior to that, I was at Claridge's in London. And prior to that, I was at the Four Seasons Hotel in New York. In my head, I feel like I've been in the industry about 10 years out of university, but actually I've kind of been around for about 25 years. Don't know where the time has gone. But I would say that out of all the properties I've worked in, Rosewood London is rather unique in the sense that it's a very luxurious property, but there's a real eclecticness and a real sort of spirit with the hotel. So I would say that really comes alive in food and beverage. So the ground floor of the hotel, the bars, the restaurants, are full of Londoners, really talks to the local community, great vibe, great atmosphere. And the teams in each of those areas get a lot of recognition from press, whether it's, Scarf's Bar is one of the, recently voted the best hotel bar in the world. It's the 55th best bar in the world on the official list. Or Holborn Dining Room, which has its own pie room, and Chef Callum there just launched his new cookbook, which is now completely sold out on Amazon with a month's waiting list. So and that's why I must say I work with an incredibly dynamic team that all are very, very proud of what they do, and they're real artisans and professionals in what they do, yeah, we're very happy to be open. We opened September 1st after being closed since March 21st. And despite everything that's going on and, despite restrictions changing, food and beverage is actually very busy. The bedroom side of things is a slightly different story. But it's good to see that, Londoners and especially our local community, want to support local businesses and are still looking to sort of be active and be out. So yeah, very happy to be open.
Brilliant, thank you. Claudia?
Hi. So my name is Claudia. I am the Senior Business Development Manager for Air Partner PLC. A bit of background, we were founded in 1961. We're a big company made up of around 450 aviation specialists. The division that I closely work with is the private aviation side. So that is sort of 1 passenger up to 18 passengers. That are a different range of aircraft that you can book for different sizes of parties. But that's not the only thing that Air Partner specialises in. We have different arms to the company as well. We've got a freight arm, so particularly over the pandemic, that department was really crucial in transporting PPE equipment across the world. We've also got a commercial jets arm as well, who deal with passenger numbers 18 and above. So they were again playing a very key role whilst our private jets division was slightly quieter, repatriating passengers, really all over the world. Some very big flights there. So yeah, what we do as a whole in the private jets division is we look after leisure and corporate passengers, transporting them all over the world. And what we have within that division is a sort of on-demand charter, which is, you come to me and you say, I'd like to go from London to Nice. There are 4 of us and we get you some quotes and you can book from there. We've also got another department which allows you to add an extra layer of protection onto that particular journey. It's a little bit more expensive, but it gives you, particularly in the pandemic and with everything being a bit uncertain, an extra layer of certainty there. And then we have a jet card division, which has been extremely popular over the summer, particularly because it gives you that top level of certainty, allowing yourself to cancel up until the day before the flight with no penalty. A slight premium, of course, but when plans are so uncertain at the moment, it's been a really popular product for us, and we've made sure that Air Partner has adapted around the pandemic and produced products specifically for people that maybe are new to the market but still want to give private aviation a go. So I'll talk about that later on, but that should give you a nice overview of what we do, and my personal role, obviously creating partnerships, but I have a first-hand role in dealing with clients day to day, so I should be able to give you a nice first-hand view of what that process looks like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm going to pass it over to you now. I was wondering if you could just give us an oversight of, where can we travel during the winter period in the next 3 to 6 months? What's a great holiday destination at the moment? Obviously, the landscape is changing rapidly, but just wondering what you would recommend.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And before we even get there, obviously, we need to think about, there's a number of things that we need to think about. So are we able to travel safely to that country? That's the first thing to think about. Do we have to self-isolate when we return to the UK? What are the restrictions within that country? So the first part is is that's what we will do. You know, are there any testing procedures? Do you have to test on arrival? Do you have to test before you go? And it is changing all the time. So I can look today and it could say something, and then in a couple of days' time it could say something else. So it's just making sure that we have all that in place before we even get there. With that in mind, there are destinations open for the winter season, and they are desperate to have us, and we really want to go there. There's some incredible resorts, some incredible countries to be visiting, and they are open and waiting for us to be able to travel there safely. So I would say at the moment, in terms of destinations, we could be looking at the Caribbean as an option for the winter season, particularly so if I talk about St. Lucia, Antigua, and Grenada. And then if you wanted to go a little bit further afield, you could actually go towards the Indian Ocean, towards the Seychelles, for example. So there are some incredible destinations to go to over the winter period. And I'll come down to sort of more individual resorts a little bit later on. The traditional ski resorts actually are looking less likely for the UK market to travel to this year. So why not look at something completely different, maybe sort of a holiday in a lifetime, like going to Lapland, you know, and going to sort of Swedish Lapland, which is open at the moment, and we can go there. So we can look at some other ideas, you know, to take children to see Father Christmas, you know, to take them sledging, to see the wild reindeers. You know, you can put some incredible packages together for the family, something that you might not have necessarily done before. And it's not your traditional ski resort with the ski schools, but doing something so exciting. And it might actually be the only time you've ever even thought about doing something like that. So there are plenty of options we can look at, absolutely.
Hey, do you think this is a really good time for impulsive travellers? You know, I mean, people aren't really planning long term ahead, you know, far in advance, are they? So this is a really exciting time to be really spontaneous, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Spontaneity, I think, is key. I mean, obviously, there are certain things that you need to think about. For example, do we need to have getting a test before we go? You know, that sort of thing. But absolutely, there are some incredible properties, you know, and people they've had a tough year. People want to get away, and whether it's for their mindfulness, to spend time for their loved ones, you know, to just get away from this, you know, and we're getting on for nearly a year, aren't we, now, before we, you know, so absolutely spontaneity is key. And, you know, we can, and the other thing is, with my trusted partners that I use, we can book something in for next year or February, March, because, you know, if we plan it well, then we can use our terms and conditions, we can be flexible. So if things change, we are able to change that for you. And I think that's what people need to know, that they've got the peace of mind to think, okay, well, I'll book this in for February, March next year, or January. And if things change and it's not possible, then we know that we've booked it in a protected manner. That means that we can change, and you know, we can look at doing something later in the year or next year. So yeah, absolutely.
And Claudia, would you just give our viewers and our clients an overview of the advantages of travelling private with, you know, private air jets?
Absolutely. I think, you know, I'm assuming that there are probably some people on the call that maybe haven't flown privately before, and I think it's always really useful to start by talking about what that process looks like. The main advantages really are sort of the speed at which you can be on the aircraft, you know, the safety of it, that you're not being in those cramped enclosed spaces, and then the flexibility that you're able to kind of maneuver your trip around you. You can choose departure times, etc. You can, you know, choose airports that are probably quite close to your home. There are private airports such as Biggin Hill, Farnborough, and North Holt that are used by private jet charterers, which, you know, might be closer to your home than perhaps Heathrow or Gatwick, for example. But I really wanted to talk about, you know, what that process looks like, so people can get an understanding. So let's say you do leave your house, you know, to get to the airport, it's a 10-minute drive or whatever it might be. You arrive there, your car will pull up to the side of what will look like a first-class lounge, usually single-story, very nice, luxurious inside. You might meet one person who's there to greet you, nice socially distanced, you know, no hustle and bustle, no queues, nothing. Your luggage will be taken from you. You'll then be taken into a sort of seating area where you can have a tea and coffee, you know, sort of snacks on the side. Someone will then come, take your passports from you, bring them back with a boarding card, And you'll probably, in most cases, be able to see your aircraft, 10, 15 meters from where you're sat. From there, if you're on an aircraft which is 8 seaters, roughly speaking, or below, you don't even get screened. You actually just walk straight onto your aircraft. That process takes around 20 minutes. So, if you are looking at something to avoid queues, you're looking at, avoiding any close confines of any class if you're traveling, commercially, and you're looking at the fewer amount of touch points possible. It's a really unique experience that you're able to get from A to B in a short amount of time, and by avoiding all those sorts of queues and people. So it is perfectly designed for a pandemic. That being said, obviously there are other things that you need to take into account, but that's why Air Partner has developed flexible cancellation for certain clients and certain trips, so that you're able to kind of book with a peace of mind. Like Kate said, if things do change, we're adaptable, and we can mold things around you so that you don't lose out. So yeah, I think in terms of advantages, those would be the key points, I'd say.
I think the key in all of it is that certainly what our clients are talking about is flexibility, because things are changing every day.
Yeah.
And knowing that you're dealing with suppliers and people that you can contact, speak to, and they can change things without massive penalties or having to jump through loops to get things changed. I think that's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd just say, to Kate's point, we are seeing huge uplift in requests and bookings for Caribbean at Christmas. And I'm personally working on quite a few where the client has said, look, I know that if I book early, I get the best rates, but I'm nervous about booking and then losing money. And we have arranged multiple trips where we've offered free cancellation up until 14 days before the flight. So it gives you that added peace of mind that you're not going to be paying, through the roof if you wait to the last minute, but you're also able to cancel for free, keep taking in mind the restrictions. And if anything were to change, if Antigua said, for example, we've stopped allowing entry from UK passengers, you would get a full refund. So, there are things to take into account there, that it's not all doom and gloom. And I think, as Kate said, the ski season is slightly away from us now. We might be looking at that closer to March. But if you are looking at doing, Northern Lights trip to Lapland or, a Caribbean trip, there are very much still options in terms of travel, even if those commercial airlines no longer service those routes.
Excellent.
And so, Michael, you mentioned about Londoners, supporting Rosewood, but have you seen an appetite for people wanting staycations in the UK and staying closer to home?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, to be very honest with you, our occupancies sort of Sunday through Thursday, are very, very low. They may get into sort of the mid-teens as an occupancy. If I compare that to last year, those days would be in the 80s and 90% occupancies. The occupancy right now for bedrooms is Fridays and Saturdays, and it's our local clientele. It was our Italian friends up until last week, but sadly they're now on the quarantine list. Our German friends are still traveling, so we have a number of German clients staying with us. But we also have a number of clients who have been locked down in whatever country they've been in, and are now quarantined with us for 2 weeks, and are booked in for a month or a couple of months. In fact, both of our presidential suites are sold, and one client is here until New Year's Eve. So there is positivity out there. And what I would say is that our average room rate has never been higher, because those clients that are traveling are either flying private and they're booking suites. And even those flying commercially are booking suites. So people are looking for more personal space. Our suites come with butler service, and they're utilizing that butler service incredibly so ahead of time, so that their schedule is completely planned out. I think the last minute, what will I do in London has gone. People really are arriving with an itinerary and a schedule, because they want to know what restaurants are following the proper protocols, what attractions are open. They want to book a tour. They don't want to be potentially in a queue or waiting. Everything needs to be kind of organized and, as safe as it can be. So we're seeing a lot more requests ahead of time. And even at the airport, you know, if they're not flying private, if they're flying commercial, you know, we've got relationships at Heathrow with like the Windsor Suite, at Heathrow VIP, or at Gatwick or Luton with Signature Class. And, you know, we'll, you know, obviously there's a charge, but we can get clients through those larger airports without seeing a single person, and having, you know, having the car pick them up from the plane side. And I think, you know, that's, you know, we've utilized that for some of our clients coming in from the States just in the last few weeks. But yeah, people are definitely staying longer. So the length of stay has increased for sure. And of course, with the restriction changes on Saturday, you know, now we're just seeing only households stay together. So it has, you know, it has changed a bit just in the last few days. But, you know, there is bookings out there, and we're seeing clients now, you know, start to, if they can get on a plane, sort of figure it out, even if it means they have to quarantine first, they're doing that. And we actually have like a quarantine package, so you know what to expect, because we obviously need to limit the services in the accommodation, and the client cannot leave the suite either for 2 weeks. So, you know, there's a number of things we need to do around that so they're comfortable without any interaction from us. So, but we see quite a bit of demand for that right now.
Michael, can I ask, I mean, it's probably a silly question, but this 10 o'clock curfew is probably killing the Saturday, Friday night getaways, is it, a little bit?
You know, that was our fear when that was first announced. We thought, we're going to see that Friday, Saturday occupancy sort of just disappear. But actually it's held strong because I think the determination to just sort of get out of the house and, you know, have a different experience is so high. What we've noticed with, you know, the locals in the area is that people are just coming to the bar earlier. So, you know, perhaps if they were in the office until, you know, 6:37, they're now actually in Scarf's Bar at 6 o'clock having their first round of drinks. And actually in the restaurant, it didn't do too much. In fact, when the curfew came out, we didn't actually have to call a single reservation. All the reservations already, and there was like a couple of thousand already in place for the next couple of weeks ahead. Every reservation we had in place was kind of before 8:30 already. So the restaurant hasn't seen any issue with that. The bar, yes. I mean, from 10 till midnight, there's still a large amount of revenue coming into the bar normally, which of course is not happening. But we're seeing people just come to the bar earlier and stay, you know, from 6 until 10. We've, you know, we've added live music back in very safely. We've worked with our provider there to offer that, because I think it's really important that as a business, you're offering all those great things you offered before, and you're not sanitizing the experience to the extent that it's just not what it should be, because our clients are still paying the same rates. Our drinks still cost the same price as they did back in February. And I think it's really important for businesses right now not to be, you know, sort of removing services and removing the experience and, you know, and keeping that in place. But of course, what has affected us now is that indoors, you should only be dining with your own household. So we have created outdoor space now, even in inclement weather such as today, which is, you know, rather rainy, but you can actually sit still outdoors this evening and have dinner. So if you are a mixed household, and last night on the terrace, we probably did about 50 people for dinner. So it was lovely.
Great. I suppose where there's a will, there's a way, isn't it?
Yes, we have to just stay agile.
Absolutely. And have you seen, I mean, obviously, I'd imagine quite a few people are thinking like, well, let's stay here. So staycations coming into London.
Yeah. And New Year's Eve, do you have a contingency just in case this 10 o'clock situation remains?
For New Year's Eve?
Yeah, just start earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, right? I mean, one day I think one thing about the festive season, and then the next day I think another thing. I mean, I do think if we can leave our homes during the festive period, I think when we already see it, there's already pickup coming in for people to stay over Christmas Day and over New Year's Eve. So there's a desire for people to go out and celebrate for sure. And we were already sending out our Christmas brochure, New Year's Eve brochure, like last week with all of our menu, all the experience. And we're planning to do actually fireworks off our roof at the hotel, like we do every year.
Oh, wow.
And especially now with the fireworks that the London Eye cancelled, that's what we're led to believe that indeed is cancelled. I think there will be quite a bit of demand. I don't know. Can we celebrate New Year's Eve at 10 p.m. instead of midnight? I don't know.
Of course, we can do anything we want, can't we?
But if that's the case, I guess we'll just set the fireworks off at 10 and pretend it's 12.
It'll be New Year somewhere.
Or set them off at 9:50. So at least we can see.
Exactly.
And Kate, if where would you recommend if people want to spend Christmas or New Year abroad? Is there anywhere that safe resorts that you would recommend specifically?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, depending on if it's with the family or looking at sort of whether it's an adult-only resort or a family resort, and taking all those things into consideration at the moment. And I think within the luxury travel market, particularly, clients are certainly looking for, they want sort of exclusivity, they want privacy. As we were talking about with the journey, as we were saying with Claudia, is that they want as little contact with lots of touch points as possible on the journey and getting to that destination safely as possible. And there are lots of beautiful resorts that people can actually go to and maybe take a villa within that resort, so they have that intimacy and that privacy and that seclusion from everyone else. But actually, they also still have the facilities, because obviously, if you're traveling with a family, for example, you've got to be able to have the facilities that that they would normally be doing anyway. And it's a bit like Michael said, they're still going to be paying the money they were paying before. They want to have everything there that's available. So I mean, I would look at somewhere, as I said earlier on, like Antigua, like Jumbie Bay, where you can take a villa within the resort and actually still do all those fantastic things. It's a little island just off Antigua. So you could go there and you can still do all the water sports and you have all that wonderful food. You don't have to worry about sitting outside under electric heaters like we have to think out at the moment, because the weather will be, that time of year will be absolutely fantastic. So yeah, it's got that feeling of space and extravagance, somewhere like that with the water sporting, you've got biking, you've got tennis, you've got hiking, there's a spa for the parents if they want to, there's a beautiful fitness pavilion. So that's somewhere I would say. And then maybe somewhere like Sugar Beach at St. Lucia, which is just nestled between, it's in one of the most idyllic locations in the whole of the Caribbean. It's actually set on a former sugar plantation, and it really is one of the most beautiful spots. So that's another place that I could definitely recommend sort of over the Christmas period. There's a spa there as well with some beautiful tree house treatment rooms. And it's got there are some villas there set within that resort. So as again, you get your privacy and your seclusion, you get your private access to the beach, but then you've still got the facilities that the hotel's offering, and they've all been made very COVID safe, very COVID secure, and everything's been put in place to welcome. They've actually started welcoming guests back from, I think, 2 weeks now. So it's all in place and it's all working beautifully. So
I guess a lot of people may be looking to travel because they're not hit by the same restrictions as they are in the UK. So, going away may be an attractive option for some people because they can mix with other households. They can go to the spa, they can stay out later than 10. So all of those things probably is opening those kind of places up for travel, isn't it?
Absolutely, and some people have a family that's bigger than 6. You sort of look at the moment, we're wondering, are we going to have to decide which grandparent we invite for Christmas? It's actually having that opportunity to go and spend that time with loved ones and actually having that time to reconnect with people, because there are some families throughout this year that just won't have spent time together, and as we look into our sort of tiers of lockdown within the UK, it just makes it more of an option. And obviously, we've been talking about private air travel, which, if that's possible for the clients, that's fantastic. But, as Michael said, we do have opportunities now that you can actually fly with a commercial airline, and you can almost have the sort of Claudia will disagree, but you can almost have the private jet experience without the private jet, but being able to actually go and do that journey privately and really not come in contact with anyone along the way as well. So with our suppliers, we can provide that for for the customers too. So there's definitely plenty of option there.
Amanda and Alison, can I ask you just to elaborate a little bit on and mention talk to our clients about how you could support families who are wanting to have a breakaway at Christmas, and how potentially you could, they could take staff with them, or you can source that for them in that location?
Yes, clients come to us, they require a seamless transition from start to finish. So we provide them, if required, staff to take away with them, or if for whatever visa reasons they can't do that, depending on the location, we would contact somebody like Richard or Kate to assist the other side. So yeah, they come to us basically to put everything together and just hand them a big package of pretty much everything. So we're partnering with you guys to allow that seamless transition to happen. So it's been a good topic this year for us. A lot of people are desperate to get away, but they need to figure out how they can do it safely, wisely, and in the correct manner that's, that works for everybody.
And I think the most important thing is that, which we've all talked about, we've all had to move with these times and be flexible, and maybe adopt certain procedures that we didn't have before. You mentioned it, Claudia, with regards to your flexibility with maybe refunds or moving things around. Something that you probably wouldn't have had to have done before, you could be a bit more stringent with. I think we're all having to be a little bit softer in our approach to accommodate these times for everybody, and especially for our clients. So we're all kind of looking to go the extra mile to ensure that everyone feels comfortable making bookings and that they can speak to people directly and get the right advice.
Yeah.
Well, as we've got a natural break, we'll just introduce Richard Hyde, who's here. Thank you, Richard, for joining us.
Hi, Richard.
So, Richard, I don't know if you want to just talk for a couple of minutes about, small luxury hotels in the world, and how, you're coping with the pandemic, and what your kind of hotels are doing in the moment, just to make sure that clients and their staff are safe in this current pandemic.
Yeah, first of all, apologies for my late arrival.
That's okay.
So I had to reset everything. But basically, Small Luxury Hotels of the World is a company of 520 independently owned hotels. So it's slightly harder than maybe Michael in terms of enforcing safety, hygiene restrictions. But most of our hotels are doing an amazing job to keep the guests safe and to meet their local needs of the market and local regulations. So they're doing their best, and to be honest, hotels now, guests are expecting, are getting used to kind of arriving with masks and the general hygiene stuff. But our hotels are kind of perfectly placed for the time, because people want kind of small experiences, small hotels. They don't really want to mix in a bigger hotel. So kind of, some of our hotels really are suited to, the current situation.
I ask a question directed at Claudia and Kate and Richard. Normally the order of holidays is you book your flight and get all that pinned down, don't you? And then you look at accommodation. That is the usual order of things, isn't it? As opposed to, book your... If I were to book, or any of our clients were to book a beautiful hotel or villa with you guys, Claudia, could you pretty much guarantee you could cooperate with the dates that a client could request?
Yes.
Yes. So you could.
It's a great question. Yeah. So basically, the on-demand market, which I think is what the majority of people use nowadays, it tends to only be the flyers that fly a lot, that sort of go for the sort of jet card options, or that has how it's been historically in the past. We have access to over 7,000 aircraft globally. So the short answer is yes. If you say, I would like to go to the Caribbean and I'd like to go this afternoon, we will be able to find you something. So obviously, with as much notice as you can give us, the chances are your pricing is going to be better for sure. But with as much notice you can give us, yeah, we can guarantee you something. You know, it maybe this afternoon might be a little bit tough on Christmas Day, but generally speaking, yes, we have access. But I think what makes Air Partner very special is that with that enormous marketplace that you're working with, obviously safety is a concern. We don't want to be putting anyone on any aircraft anywhere. So we have, of course, suppliers that we work with more closely that we do business with, just based on the fact that they, you know, adhere to the sort of safety standards that we put in place, things like up-to-date insurance documents, etc. So you can kind of rest easy knowing that the options that we're going to give you are going to be, you know, something that you can rely on as being sort of top class service levels, etc. But yes, we can get you in the air whenever you need to be. And I think you are right that people do tend to book their accommodation first and sort of find flights to go with it. There's something which is worth taking into account is that there is something called an empty leg, which is essentially, Alison, let's say you would like to go from Paris to Geneva, you might end up booking an aircraft that is sat in London and needs to position over to Paris to come and collect you, to take you to Geneva. If that's the case, that aircraft journey from London to Paris ends up being what we call an empty leg. It's something that operators will try and sell at a discounted rate to try and sort of get double money, if you will, because Alison, sorry to say, but by chartering that aircraft, you've already paid for that leg from London to Paris. So yeah, they're making use of a situation that's already happening. That is something that we are able to, you know, offer to clients if they know that they'd like to go to Antigua over the Christmas period, but they are flexible on dates because Kate, you very kindly arranged, you know, many options for them at Jumbo Bay, for example. Then we can take advantage of those empty legs, and they do tend to be quite discounted, sometimes as much as, you know, paying a third for what it is. So I think in the past, private aviation has always felt a bit untouchable. Very high luxury, and it is a super luxurious product, but I don't think it is as quite elite as people now think. We have got, you know, people from all walks of life chartering aircraft, taking empty legs. So it's definitely something to investigate, even if it's not something that was at the forefront of your mind to begin with.
I must say, we're seeing that. We're seeing, even in the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks of being open now, many clients operating privately now, utilizing that, especially previously, you know, when they were traveling with groups of friends or other family members, you know, if there's 7 or 8 of them who are typically buying first class seats, then, you know, having that private jet is, for many, has been really beneficial.
Absolutely. We do see cases where, you know, you might pay £45,000 to fly one way to New York, for example. But if there's 13 of you and you usually fly first class, then, you know, it's not dissimilar prices, and you're obviously just in one plane with the people that you're traveling with, rather than being with lots of other people. So yeah, we do see people taking advantage of those sorts of deals.
And I'll just give it to you from a little bit of a slightly different angle as well, because obviously Claudia's just explained that so well with the private air travel. So if clients were looking to go somewhere with a commercial airline, for example, then how actually we would do it as Hot Chilli Travellers, we would then put everything together. So all the elements would actually be booked as, so rather than booking everything separately, it would all be put together, and it would be under an ATOL license so that it was fully protected, which is, you know, with the commercial airlines, it's really important for the protection, particularly in the current climate, because there are certain insurances such as disruption failure, which if you were to book those things separate, commercial airlines separately and the hotel directly, might not put together that full protected package as such. So looking at package travel regulations as well. So as Hot Chilli Travel, we would put all that together. So if it was with a commercial airline and the accommodation and so whether it was a villa and everything that was to go with that as well. So that was just a slightly different angle on there as well.
Good.
I'm just going to ask all attendees now, we're entering like the last 15 minutes of the webinar. So if there are any questions that you would like to put forward to our panelists, then please do so, and I'll put them forward. So if we start to think now maybe about staycations in the UK, and Amanda and Alison, I'm going to ask you, What if clients are looking to have a really luxurious staycation in the UK? What kind of services do you think that you'd be able to offer just to make it a special Christmas?
Well, okay, so if maybe they're hiring a country home for themselves, then certainly a chef, depending on, it really obviously depends on what regulations there are at the moment, because we have this own family situation. So normally you could have a chef, a housekeeper, etc. coming into your property to make it like a hotel environment, really, I guess, home from home situation.
Yeah, but it's quite difficult at the moment, because there is this, rule of 6. By the time you've got your family involved, to add additional people into the mix, it's quite difficult. So we're watching the market very, very quickly and hoping, there's a little bit of an ease up on that towards Christmas. But I wanted to ask about the ski season. Is that going to happen, do you think, this year? Kate?
Well, it's, as I think we would have sort of mentioned, as we touched on earlier, it's looking increasingly unlikely for the UK market to be able to go to our traditional ski resorts. We're looking really more to March, and a lot of the suppliers that we've spoken to are really sort of saying at the moment that, for everything else that goes with it, that all the customers would expect, all the clients are going to expect when they go, so all your traditional ski resorts for Christmas, I think is looking pretty unlikely at the moment, which is really sad. But as we said earlier on, if it's the snow and the cold and going out, then maybe Northern Lights, Lapland could be an alternative option, to provide something really a bit different for the families. So, I mean, obviously, many of the resorts, the season would normally go through to sort of the Easter holidays. So if it's a family, we could be looking at March through to the Easter holidays and being able to have a little bit more sort of rosé in the sun, which is always an option. So, it's really just thinking about looking a little bit later and pushing it on a little bit. Having spoken to Claudia about this, I think sort of would probably agree that the demand for the ski, sort of traditional ski resort this year is probably not looking as positive as we were hoping it might have been. We didn't quite think we'd be in this situation at this time a few months ago, but let's look at different options, and let's look to moving this forward to the market later on in the year.
And Richard, could I quickly ask you, where would you recommend out of your incredible hotels over the winter period? You have got some beautiful places. Where would you recommend?
Gosh, that's a very good question. Hard to answer.
Full of them.
Restrictions, but I can just give you just a few tips. Our top destination at the moment is Mexico. So Mexico is still open as far as I know, and many islands in the Caribbean. So that's definitely worth a look. You'll probably find lots of Americans there, because Americans going there rather than coming to Europe. But definitely trying to find some summer sun in the Latin America and Mexico would be great. In terms of winter destinations, Sweden is our top destination in Europe, which I assume is kind of connected with their more liberal travel restrictions. So we have some great hotels in Stockholm, but unfortunately we understand the winter markets are not going to open this year. So I would maybe recommend going to our new hotel, the Arctic Bath Hotel, which is in Lapland. You can see the Northern Lights. You can have a sauna, a spa retreat on floating saunas on the Arctic Ocean. So that's maybe a recommendation. But to be honest, broadly speaking, I would say Mexico and the Caribbean, because I think Thailand, the Maldives are still closed for most visitors at the moment.
Yeah, and I would add on to that what Richard was saying. I mean, our 2 resorts in Mexico, especially Las Ventanas in Cabo San Lucas on the West Coast, just had its best September on record. And not even a September month, but the best month on record, period.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, there are some positive stories out there when it comes to business, but both resorts are packed, full. Yeah.
Michael, we've had a question come through for you. So Sarah would like to know a little bit more about the quarantine package you're offering guests at Rosewood.
Yeah, so we that's kind of a fully inclusive package. So there's obviously advantageous pricing because it's for a 2-week stay, at least a 2-week stay. And what we do is we pick them up at the airport. There's a temperature check and health questionnaire at the airport. Our driver, private car, which is very safe for both parties, to the property, express curbside check-in straight up to the room or suite. And there are then facilities for the client in the room. So if it's microwave, fridge, the different services from them to be more at home. And then, additional linens and towels and so forth are all supplied as well. We cannot have that guest, of course, utilize any of the public space of the property. They need to stay within their bedroom or suite. And so far, all of those guests who are quarantined with us are in suites. And we then have relationships with many of the very good restaurants in town, whether it's Scott's or Amazonica or Hakkasan or whoever it is, for food deliveries, where we will, we can pick it up ourselves. We have our own drivers and cars here, so we can actually do that very quickly for them, rather than relying on a delivery service. And it's all about, again, communication in advance with these guests as well, about, do they want yoga? Do they want workout equipment in the suite? What cuisines do they like? Send them menus in advance so that, that 2-week period is as comfortable for them as possible. And actually, we have one family right now where their children, are schooling in the suite for 2 weeks right now. So we have workstations set up. So we have proper desks, proper desk chairs, so that, those 2 weeks are as comfortable as possible for what they need to be doing during that 2 weeks.
Sounds lovely. I think I'd like to quarantine there myself for 2 weeks.
It's lovely. It really is.
Would it be
much
fair?
nicer than being at home. Yeah.
Yeah. Would it be a fair assessment to say travel is probably, given the destination, probably a very safe time to go, because everybody is now putting incredible measures in place. So in a weird way, it's probably the safest time to go traveling, isn't it? If you head to the right place.
I've actually been on, I think, 15, 20 planes in the last 6-7 weeks. Nothing too exotic. I mean, a little bit to Venice and mostly up to Scotland or over to Northern Ireland, which now I can't do. But I don't think the planes have ever been cleaner.
Yes.
Airports, there's some peak moments at the airport, but generally speaking, the airport is significantly quieter. There's less people in the lounge, there's less people on board. And I must say, with a number of airlines, I felt incredibly safe, traveling. I don't think there's, there hasn't been as many of these protocols or procedures in place ever before. So.
Yes, no, I think it's a good time to think about a nice, spontaneous winter break. I do.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel daunting when you're at the airport at all. For those who haven't been at the airport since sort of March, I think, all of our colleagues in the travel industry are just delighted to see people back at the airport and back on the plane. So, the service is great and there's lots more smiles around, welcome you sort of back. But I must say, sort of driving up to Heathrow for that first flight feels really good. It's exciting to actually get back on a plane.
Yes.
No.
Perfect.
As we're talking about, safety and touch points, etc. Claudia, what measures are Airport taking for clients coming on board?
So it's a good question. We've obviously working with a number of operators. It's extremely important that Air Partner make sure that the operators they're working with are following all the restrictions that are in place. And we actually, with our acquisition of Redline, which is a safety and security company in 2015, we have this company that basically lives under the umbrella of Air Partner, that are the ones that are sort of dictating security to the rest of the aviation world. And with them, we've ensured that the absolute strictest of protocols are in place for operators, things like PPE equipment wherever possible, deep cleansing of every aircraft after every flight, ensuring that if clients want things like gloves, disposable gloves and masks are always provided on board. I've got clients that prefers to watch his bed get made up on board by one person, so he knows that, we haven't got sort of crew brushing past it if he's sleeping. It's a very personalised and tailor-made basically experience when you book, and you can ask of us anything you want. If it's important to you that you bring your own cutlery or whatever it might be that makes you feel safer and allows you to feel comfortable on board, then we do everything we can to kind of make sure that that's all available to you. We had one client who most recently didn't want to take the transfer car off the apron, which is where the aircraft park in the Maldives, which is sort of a 2-minute drive to where you get checked in on the other side. So we had cars flanking him, walking either side, because you're not allowed to basically walk across an apron, but we managed to organise it so that he was able to basically get access to the sort of check-in terminal without having to get in any cars. So it might seem over the top, but if anyone has very strong feelings or particularly nervous fly, then we will do absolutely everything we can to make it more comfortable for you.
Thank you. So please let us know if there are any final questions. But just wondering if, end on a kind of a positive note and encourage people to, to look ahead and to plan their next adventure, if it's, in London or, further afield. Richard, are there any hotels that you would recommend in the London area or in the UK if people are looking to stay at home?
Yeah, all of ours, but it's quite. I mean, I was at a few of our hotels in Surrey and Sussex the other day, and it's amazing. All the guests. I mean, it was full. And talking to the guests, they'd literally travelled 30 minutes from their home, so they can't go to Thailand, they can't go to the Maldives, but they can go to their local luxury hotels. So I would just suggest, either getting on your bike or getting on the car and go to your local luxury hotel, no matter which brand. Because I think you need to support the local community, you need to support sustainability, you need to support all the staff that have worked incredibly hard. So we very much welcome your business, and if you can spend the time even just having afternoon tea in one of our hotels, I'd be really appreciated.
I'd also say as well, I think that, maybe people's sort of ideas about where they want to go and what they want to achieve while they're away may be changed as well. I think people have, looked at the last year, and it might be that, they want to go to communities where they're giving something back to that community. It might be that they actually want to learn something that they've maybe never learned before. So it's actually thinking about making your future plans, making your future trips, maybe a little bit more conscious. So I think people are going to be more conscious possibly about where they travel in the future as well. And I totally agree with Richard. We need to support our hotels, support the travel industry, support the airlines, because they really need the support. And if we can do it in a safe way and flexible way, then I would absolutely urge you and encourage you to make that next move and think about travel for the future, whether it be in the UK or further afield. So
we've had one more question come through as well. So Priya from the Luxury Property Forum has asked, what does the next 6 months look like for the luxury hospitality industry? Michael, would you like to answer that one?
Yeah, I mean, I have to laugh when I think back to March, when we had just kind of closed the hotel, which I never dreamt in a million years we would ever do. And thinking, okay, well, I guess we'll open in maybe June or July. Okay, then that was August, then September. And now we got open in September. And I thought, well, this unpredictability will probably only last another month, or, things will just gradually get better, which of course hasn't quite materialized. So now I'm thinking, look, the first quarter next year is probably still going to be very problematic. The reality of the situation is that we're not really going to see uplift in any great way, occupancy wise, really probably until May, June next year. If we're lucky, it's all about when is that vaccination, and there's a great deal of speculation on that. So I think it's just kind of being realistic, and it's probably, we probably have another difficult 6 months ahead of us, sadly. And I think the new year isn't going to mark anything different, sadly, in that first quarter. And it's just sort of making the owners, I'm very happy that our owners are very realistic as well. And we just need to, plod on and be positive as much as possible. And we're looking now at partnerships for the business for May, June, July next year. So, we're trying to think ahead. So geographically, when will America travel? When will the Middle East travel? When will Asia travel? Are we ready for them? Who could we work with? Who's a great partner in that destination in advance? So we're already talking right now to an Asian airline, because we presume that Asia may be traveling as one of the more first countries, because they're obviously a little ahead of the game than we are right now. So we're just kind of think ahead. But yeah, in the next 6 months are going to be a bit challenging. But I really firmly hope that the summer in London could be a bumper one, especially if there's a vaccination kind of early on in the summer or better therapies. I mean, if we get an Ascot and a Wimbledon in there, and America can travel, the summer in London could be, really, really busy with incredibly high rates and lots of business. So I'm hoping for some summer positivity.
Fingers crossed.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Claudia, final question for you. Nick has asked, has the demand for private travel gone up because of COVID?
I'm glad Nick asked that. It's a really interesting question. So it was impossible, like Michael said, to try and guess what was going to happen. But obviously with the decline of business travel over the year, we've had business critical trips, sure, but we weren't sure which direction that was going to take. Air Partner do a lot of leisure flyers as well. So I think as soon as those initial restrictions were lifted early summer, I mean, I can't recall a summer where we've actually been busier. I think in August we were up 321% on all of our requests, and it was brilliant fun. It was nice to feel busy. It was great to feel busy, and we launched a new product in the last month, which is called the Jet Card 5. I've alluded to it. It basically allows you to lock in 5 hours on a certain type of aircraft, and what that will do is guarantee you guaranteed availability up to 24 hours before you travel. And let's say you book a little bit in advance, you get free cancellation until the day before. Typically jet cards have been sort of 25 hours or more, thinking to the older sisters of sort of NetJets, etc. But our jet card is really flexible and allows you to kind of say, well, gosh, I don't know if 10 hours is too much or 25 seems like an awful lot. Who knows what I'm going to be doing, but let's start with 5. It's fully refundable, even if I decide it was a silly purchase one day, but it's been unbelievably successful. Our sales were up 50% after just the summer alone. So yes, the short answer is yes, our demand for private travel among leisure flyers has flown off the shelves. Business travel will inevitably take a bit longer. Unfortunately, Zoom is much too easy and popular, so we might see that slight decline, but people naturally feel more nervous traveling now on planes, and we're eager to get the word out that jet travel isn't this exclusive bubble that it used to be, and you can get a non-obligation quote where you can have a look and see if it's up your street. If you're going to be sharing it with 6 passengers, it might well be worth your while. So yeah, I think moving into a slightly quieter winter for sure, with skiing destinations not being as popular, but with longer haul journeys being up, I think we should probably even out a little bit there.
Thank you.
I think we're out of time now, aren't we? I think we should wrap this up. Thank you all so much for joining us this morning. It's been really interesting, and I hope it's made people a little bit more optimistic about travel in the future. So I wish you all luck, and thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much.